Broadcasting live. It's America's longest running talk show on computers. It's Computer America, bringing you the biggest names in technology with guest interviews, new products, and your emails. Listen live at computeramerica.com on any device around the world. Email the show at live@computeramerica.com or find us on social media. Be sure to check out our website for contests, giveaways, show notes, live video stream, podcasts, and more. You're listening to Computer America.
Sorry about that, but here we go. So welcome into the Computer America Show. Let me go ahead and just say that, we have a couple things, including a great interview today, as well as computer technology news. Busy day for news because we have, of course, the Worldwide Developer Conference for Apple. That's right. Going to be a lot of fun and a lot of Apple news, of course, making its way through, as well as a couple acquisitions. And hey, we'll talk about all that later on in the program. But like I said, we do have a great guest today. So before we get into that, computeramerica.com, that's where you'll find everything from the show notes, which include a link to our guest website, as well as any news, articles, videos, things like that. We will, of course, include there. So if you're driving, if you're busy, don't worry, we got you covered. Also, be sure to check out the social media contest brought to you by Logitech. Give away a prize every single Friday, and you can sign up for that right there on our homepage. And the last thing is, of course, the live video stream, which is brought to you by OWC. So, yeah, you can watch Computer America and not just listen. All right, so all that being said, why don't we go ahead and just get started with our guest today. And again, looking forward to this because I started with Computer America very, very young. Our longest listeners would remember, I think the first time I was on the show, I think I was like 15 years old. It was rough. I think I said hi, and then that's all I said for about 2 hours. I didn't say anything else. Super nervous, but starting out young in this kind of industry, it's not easy, but it's a lot of fun, and there's a lot of audience that I think wants to be able to identify with people that, hey, let's face it, talk radio and just media in general is largely dominated by, older guys. It's just the way the industry currently is. But joining us is a bit of, I don't want to say an oddity because that puts a negative spin to it, but someone that I'm really looking forward to talking with. And so joining us by phone is Mehak Vohra, and she is the founder and CEO of Jamocha Media. And Mehak, how you doing?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I am doing just fine. Thank you for joining us here on the program. And like I said,
thank you for having me on the show.
Our pleasure, our pleasure. So I think a good place to start would be a bit of your background, and this is kind of what drew us to invite you over onto the program. Is that your story is a bit different. So please go ahead and tell us kind of where you're coming from.
Yeah, so 2 years ago, I was attending school at Purdue University. I was studying computer science, and I saw myself getting a front-end engineering job at a big company. And the summer after my freshman year, I had decided to come out to San Francisco for the weekend, and I met a bunch of students that weren't actually students anymore, but they were people that were my age that were making really cool things. When I went back home, this was over summer break, I decided to start a marketing firm that helps these students and these young people reach startups around their college campus or just try to find their audience. So I ran a marketing agency for 2 years, and then in October, we decided to pivot, and we now create content for CEOs and VCs on LinkedIn.
That is, I think, the first area that we're going to talk about, and I mean,
Okay.
yeah, and let's just kind of touch on the importance of we're of course media, but talk about the importance of media relations when it comes to younger crowds or people who may not have the experience or the means, or it's just. Why was it so important to get students in touch with with startups and things like that? Because a lot of much bigger companies, they have programs, they have scholarships, they have just general outreach. Why did you feel it was an important niche to fill to get startups and college graduates or college students, I guess, together in the first place?
Yeah, the thing is like our generation, we're the future. So I think it's really important that now we start to figure out how we can make a difference and how we can get more people our age involved. And we're the internet generation, and we've grown up with the internet. I don't think I remember a time when we didn't have the internet. So because of that, it's so easy to connect and to congregate and to bring a voice to what we think matters. And we have that power where maybe people 20 years ago didn't have that.
Right, and that definitely makes a lot of sense. I mean, the day and age of being connected, I just, some of the people here at the office, they have to do everything by phone, and I will say that the phone is probably one of my least used instruments when it comes to, kind of booking and scheduling for the show. It's, there's definitely a shift in that generation in how we communicate, and Yeah, and if you could...
It's all about streamlining now, and it's not about like doing things per scenario or whatever, which is how I think it used to be done, but now it's how can we get things done as quickly as we can in the most streamlined way possible.
Streamlining is important, but there's also that, and you also create content like you said, and you talk about tech news, which you do here on the show as well. But I did watch your video about Facebook and deleting Facebook, and is it overblown, that kind of thing. And there's something to be said about streamlining, where you can get in touch with someone, you can get something done very quickly, but there's also that feeling of maybe that bit of pushback against social media, including LinkedIn, including Facebook, including Twitter, so on and so forth. I mean, just because you seem to be, kind of in the thick of it, how do you feel? Because I'm kind of picking up some sense of not burnout, but just a pushback against the idea of, being connected 24/7 and that having to be the norm.
Yeah, I think it definitely adds an added piece of pressure where it adds an added piece of pressure where you want to impress everyone that's around you, but it also creates this pressure of seeing what your friends are doing and how your friends are interacting. And everyone posts when they're posting on social media, they're posting the highlights of their life. But it's really easy to take that and look at that as, oh, wow, this person's living a really cool life, but you just see the highlights. And I think because of that, it's added an added pressure onto our youth to live really crazy and exciting lives. And if they aren't, it makes them feel less than. So I think that's probably the biggest flaw with social media right now, is that it's not really giving our youth the opportunity to live the way they want to live, but more on how they see other people living, and they start to change the way they're living to that.
I hear you. So the answer is to install video cameras as people cry themselves to sleep at night. That is brilliant. I like it. No, you're right. I have fallen into the same thing. I've actually gotten off of, let's say, Instagram, because my friends were living very interesting lives, and I was, it was not fun. But that's aside. Let's talk about a particular, and it's so, I kind of consider it social media, but LinkedIn is kind of social media for the business world. And I am inundated with the amount of invites that I get. I personally don't get on it, but we do use it for the program. Talk about LinkedIn. It's not talked about as much because it's not, there's no crazy video happening on Instagram or on LinkedIn that's circulating around the web. There's no real big,
Yes.
viral traction to it. Is LinkedIn important?
Yeah, no, I think it definitely is, and I've seen it come up over the span of the last year. I think it was actually May of 2017. My friend is like working at my house with me, and he goes, I'm going to start creating content on LinkedIn, and I think you should too. And I was like, why? Like, who's reading LinkedIn? Like, who thinks LinkedIn is cool? And at the time, I'd been writing on Quora for a little bit. And he was like, no, you don't understand. Like, there's so many people within the business world that are on LinkedIn, and there's no one creating content there. So what if we went over there and started creating content there, and, like, let's see what happens. So I was like, all right, we'll give it, like, a couple months, and let's see. And I saw over the span of the summer my influence just growing on LinkedIn because, first of all, people weren't creating content, but people were seeing that me and my friend were creating content and that more other people were starting to join in and follow us doing that. So I ended up finishing out 2017 with like 15-ish million views on that platform that I built up over 8 months. And the really crazy thing is that because it's all business people, they're all people that really want to learn, and it's not entertainment content that you see on, I used to see on Vine or YouTube or Facebook where that circulates, but on LinkedIn it's more about how do you build your personal brand or marketing techniques, or people are doing a lot more business-related content, which I think is cool, and it's more about self-betterment.
So, and to a complete novice who, again, maybe has just a very light touch with LinkedIn, how is that content spread? Because it's not like YouTube where it's just a list of videos. My personal experience with LinkedIn are simply people's, kind of work history, resume, what they currently do, contact information. How do you circulate LinkedIn content? Is it through your own website and blog, or is it through LinkedIn itself?
Yeah, so this is actually what I love about LinkedIn and why I think it's so easy to grow. LinkedIn works through second and third degree engagement. So you post as you would on Facebook, and there's a feed, and that's what people would scroll through. But the thing that I love about LinkedIn is that if I like or comment on someone else's post, all of my followers will also see that post. So that's how posts can very easily go viral. If you have a lot of people engaging with your post will then be seen by more people because it goes into those people's feeds as well. So over time, as a post starts to grow, you'll start to see within your analytics like, oh, cool, it's seen by my second degree connections, and then it was seen by my third degree, and then even more than that. And LinkedIn also in their back end can push posts up as they deem that they like them to more people that are out of your network as well.
That's very interesting. And one side effect, I don't know at all if it played any effect into how many views you got, but I mean, let's face it, a lot of workplaces to boost productivity block Facebook and Twitter and things like that. Yeah, workplaces really don't block LinkedIn. It's seen as a business to business, kind of site. And I can see where, maybe professionals who are browsing through LinkedIn, any kind of content that is more than just here's my resume would quickly pick up traction. So that's a very that's a very innovative way to to use LinkedIn. And what was the reception? I mean, you mentioned that you started creating content for CEOs and things like that. I mean, what did you find the audience was really kind of looking for?
Yeah, it depends. So when we started creating content, it was all for marketers and growth marketers. So content was around, here's a good way to run Facebook ads, or here's some Facebook ad tricks, or here's what I learned today about capturing people's attention. And the cool thing about LinkedIn is that it's like they're really short videos, so they'll be between like 1 to 2 minutes long, but people will try to really like jam-pack them with a lot of value. And the reception in the beginning was really good, and what we saw over time was that within LinkedIn there was actually a lot of pushback from people that had been using LinkedIn as a place just to send resumes, and they were like, yo, this isn't Facebook. Why are you posting content like this on here? And I think we're still getting a lot of that pushback now. There are people who don't see LinkedIn being that type of platform where people should be creating content for. But I think times are changing, and the cool thing is that with LinkedIn, I can choose which audience I want to connect with. Facebook, you have to pay for that. You have to create ads, and then you can target them. With LinkedIn, I just have to connect with people that I want to see my videos. And I can search for that. LinkedIn gives you the opportunity to search for city, search for title, search for company. And if you can do that and you can target people that you want to see, it's really easy to create the market for what you're trying to sell.
I'm surprised that you would say that out loud. That seems like you are telling Microsoft that they aren't monetizing to Facebook's level in terms of audience engagement. That's dangerous ground to tread, to kind of say, hey, Microsoft, step up your monetization game. But no, I mean, Microsoft does own LinkedIn. Microsoft also owns Skype for Business, things like that. I mean, there are a lot of utilities that I think Microsoft owns, and we've seen through recent updates through Skype and and a couple other properties. I think what you're doing is what Microsoft hopes more people would do. They kind of hope that social media comes to the Microsoft platform and not the other way around. So I mean,
right.
I think that they would be very receptive to the way that you're using the platform. Talk about, and again, this is just LinkedIn in general. Should people be on LinkedIn? Because it's I think it's a great place to meet marketers. It's a great place to get your resume that you can point people to. It's kind of like cloud storing, your work history. But just everyday people or people who are looking to start a business for the first time, would you recommend LinkedIn?
Oh yeah, absolutely, and it's for the same reason that you can target the people that you want to meet. And I actually don't think that, I think that's the thing that makes LinkedIn awesome. Whereas Facebook, it's more about personal connections, and with LinkedIn, it's more about who do you want to know, who do you want to get in front of, who do you want to see your content. And that's the really beautiful thing, that if you're doing something that's worthwhile and people are getting value from it, it's a lot easier to meet people within the field you want to meet. So I think as long as you're not taking advantage of LinkedIn or doing something that's not morally correct, where
right.
I think it's fine.
Right. No. We do not advocate starting up your heist ring on LinkedIn. That's probably not the best thing.
Yeah.
But hey, why don't we go ahead and broaden this conversation a bit to social media in general? Because I mentioned, you do have a YouTube channel where you post videos about tech news and things like that. I believe you guys are on Twitter. You guys do a lot of different social media, and I guess my question is that you took such an interest in LinkedIn, but you didn't completely abandon others because one was maybe worse at certain things than the other. What is the role of social media, and what does each platform kind of bring to the table? Just an overview.
Yeah, absolutely. So here's the thing. I don't see LinkedIn as my end game. I think LinkedIn is a great platform in the same way Facebook is. But at the end of the day, someone scrolling through a LinkedIn post and stopping to see your video is way different than someone being on YouTube and clicking onto your video and staying there, diverting all of their attention to it and watching your whole video through. So I look at platforms like Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter that have a scrolling feed being a platform that's a good way to find new people and to get more people to figure out who you are. But as for an end game and where I actually want my audience to come over to at the end of the day would be probably a platform like YouTube or my website where I have their full attention.
Right. No, and makes perfect sense. So, and let's talk a little bit about, just kind of your unique background. And this is funny because I'm actually pretty similar. I do plan on going back, but I have about 2 years in a computer science degree as well, dropped out to, do the whole Computer America marketing thing. And, it's been a lot of fun, but you have a couple of different, characteristics that I don't, including the fact that, young female in the tech industry. which, as I've seen in, even in college, all the way through to talking with guests and just seeing the way that the media is behind the scenes, it's a very male-dominated, male-driven, kind of deal. And I'm not saying that that's explicit, but it's, if nothing else, it's momentum kind of carrying this kind of, these kinds of demographics along. So talk about some of your experiences getting into this. Have you received any kind of pushback because you are a young woman? Did you, was this an asset in certain regards? I mean, just talk about how it's been for you.
Yeah, definitely. I think more so than being a woman, it's been my age, I think, was something that was really hard for me when I first moved out here, especially trying to start a marketing firm, telling people like, hey, I can help you build your social channels. I can help you do this. And I think getting in the door was really hard. But after I was able to get in and I was able to show them like, hey, this is what I've been able to do for other companies, or even working for cheap in the beginning to build those case studies. I think that was really hard. But over time, it worked itself out. One of the things that I used to do when I first moved out to San Francisco was I used to go to VC parties, but I would sneak in. I didn't know anyone at that firm, and I didn't know them. They definitely didn't know me. I would figure out where they were through newsletters or whatever that I'd hack my way onto, and I just dress up, show up, memorize the faces of all the people at the firm, and walk up to them and pretend like I knew who they were and hope that they would have a conversation with me. And that's how that first...
Yeah, and I don't see anything wrong. I don't see anything wrong with that. I mean, they're there to meet people. They're marketers. So, very interesting.
Absolutely.
Yeah, very interesting ideas. And I mean, that's some can-do attitude that you got there. Although I did mean to ask you much earlier, but hey, no time like the present. Why San Francisco? Because we've seen a lot of tech companies. California is saturated with tech, and that might work well for your purposes. But for a lot of companies, we're seeing them move to, in some cases, Colorado. We're seeing them move to like Austin, Texas. We're seeing a lot of people, either through lower cost of living, easier to find employment, things like that. I mean, was it a necessity to move to California, or do you think that you could do this in, some other burgeoning tech scene, or is California just the place to be when it comes to marketing and tech?
I think it really depends. It doesn't just even depend on your company, but it depends on you as a person. What are you interested in? I sometimes think that like I'm really happy that I left Indiana. There's an emerging scene there, but for me it made more sense for me to move to San Francisco because I was planning on doing marketing, and this is where everyone else was. Whereas San Francisco is really expensive. So if you're working on building out a prototype, or if you're working on finding product market fit and you haven't quite figured out what your business model is, I think it's probably better to figure that out not in San Francisco, but somewhere else that's a little bit more cost efficient. And once you figure that out, then maybe moving here, because this is a good place to create connections. Everyone is here. So it's a good place to learn and to grow, but also at the same time, I don't think it makes sense to put yourself in a financial place that it becomes hard.
Right. No, and we've seen that to certain extremes. Not knocking Nebraska, great corn, but I will say that we have met companies that have moved to the middle of nowhere, and proverbially, and they are doing very, very well because hey, low cost, easy to find employees, and low cost of operations. It's great. But no, being out there in California seems like you were able to meet some people that really helped you. And just reading through your bio, just another thing just to really highlight that people have sitting up and taken notice of you. Talk about the Forbes piece that was done on you with the top 10 Gen Z marketers for 2017. How did that go down? How did they approach you? And how's it feel?
Yeah, that was super cool. I actually didn't even know about it until the day that article came out, and someone tweeted me about it, and they said, hey, you're in this Forbes article. And yeah, it was super exciting. I know a lot of the people that are on that list too, and they were people that I looked up to before I even moved out here. So it was super exciting to be mentioned along those people. And yeah, I think it's one of those things where people look at Gen Z as an emerging field, and people think about marketing to us, but they don't think about us as being the marketers. So I think it was really cool that Forbes highlighted us for that.
And that's very true. We have had, actually experts on the show that are, getting into the psychology of someone from Generation Z, of, the younger audience. And it's a different playing field. And if, I'm going to outline some points that they made, and if you could, kind of say yes or no if that's correct. But one of the biggest things that that we've talked about here on the program is that Gen Z, they don't mind being promoted to. It's just they have to, first of all, agree with, kind of the morals and ethics. Like, they're okay with being advertised to, but like they prefer influencer marketing, where it's like, hey, some guy that I watch live stream all the time, this company's supporting them, and I'm kind of okay with that as long as they're upfront, they're not surreptitious, and it's not, ham-fisted. And I think that's one of the biggest movements. Is not just general, put a commercial out there, 30 seconds, and you'll be good to go. Younger audiences definitely prefer kind of that, I don't want to say personal connection, because I think a lot of people don't have a personal connection with their audience, but that more grassroots kind of, marketing.
Yeah, absolutely. We're definitely not the banner ads generation, where you'll go on a website and we'll see an ad and be like, oh, hey, this looks interesting, let's click it.
Right.
For us, what I think the really big thing is, you're right, it's personal connection. How do we relate to that product? And I think that's the really big thing that brands need to look at when they're trying to market to Gen Z, is how can we create an advertisement that relates to them, or they could put themselves in the shoes of the person that's within that ad. So we see a lot of brands when they're trying to market to Generation Z using YouTube influencers or Instagram influencers. And these are people that we look up to, or we look at, or we watch every day, and they've become a part of our daily lives. So for them to recommend a product to us, it makes it feel relatable because we relate to them.
Right. No.
But with that being said, if an influencer comes in and is marketing everything that comes to them, we look at that person as a cop-out, or like a sellout, because they're not being authentic. So I think it's really about finding that balance, and about showing that, like, this is, as an influencer, like, that's what that brand really means to you.
Right. Yeah. It's sort of that feeling where, you can have things marketed to us, but if you kind of want to milk us or treat us just as your personal piggy bank for your advertisers, then you're going to lose our loyalty. And hey, that's that's pretty bad. So, and Mehak, I will say that we have like 2 minutes here left, and I want to hear about what you're up to, because I've heard, at least I've read a couple of different articles, including everything from politics to, of course, continuing your your media relations. What are you up to? What's in the future?
Yeah, so the biggest thing is we're launching our LinkedIn Elite program. So we're working with CEOs, VCs, sales teams at companies, and we're teaching them how to run their LinkedIn. So with sales teams, we're helping them run their LinkedIn. We're teaching them how they can reach out to people and create content. With a personal one-on-one client, we're actually streamlining that whole process. So we send you a set of questions, you send back bullet points, we turn them into a LinkedIn post it for you, and then also help you drive engagement to that post. So we've seen clients go from 0 to 60,000 views overnight per post while working with us. So that's probably the biggest thing we're working on right now. And we're also promoting our LinkedIn influencers that we've signed, and we're helping grow as well, and we call them the Brew Crew.
Very, very, very cool. And if people want to find out more information about you, how to get in touch with you, where's the best place to go?
What the Mehak on all social medias, what without an H.
All right. So, yep. And we'll have a link.
WATT.
Yep, and we'll have a link to all of that right there in the show notes. And I will say, Mehak, thank you so much for joining us here on Computer America. We got to go to break, but hey, thanks for joining us. It was a lot of fun.
Thank you.
All right, have a great day. Bye-bye.
Thank you for having me. Bye.
All right, everyone, so there they go. We'll be right back. More Computer America right after this.
Greece is cheap.
But the airfare costs a fortune.
Paris?
Not much closer, and again, airfare...
What about Puerto Vallarta?
Let's face it, flying anywhere is just too expensive.
Wait, what's this? Low-cost airlines.
With one call to low-cost airlines, you'll drastically slash your travel costs. We're talking insanely low airline prices to any of your favorite destinations. Where would you like to go? London, Rome, Costa Rica, Australia?
Wow, that's cheap.
So why wait? Call now to learn how crazy cheap it is to fly anywhere in the U.S. or international. Our prices are so low, we can't publish them. The only way to get them is to call to instantly hear the most amazing best deals on airline travel. It's that easy. So call now and start packing.
800-215-4461. 800-215-4461. 800-215-4461. That's 800-215-4461.
We are all Brother Wolf. 10 years ago, a group of locals banded together to create positive change. We took animals into our homes, held adoption events at local retailers, and talked to the community about our mission to help build a no-kill Asheville. A decade later, we have achieved so many victories for animals in need. There's been so much progress, yet there's still so much to do. As part of our year-long celebration, we encourage you to become a member of our special Compassionate Circle program. With a monthly donation of $10 or more, you will have behind-the-scenes access to the work we are doing at Brother Wolf. Our goal is to reach 1,000 members because we receive no government funding. Working together, we can help build and sustain no-kill communities. Learn more at compassionatecircle.bwar.org. We are a 501c3 tax-deductible organization.
And welcome back to the Computer America Show. It is, 32 minutes past the hour as we continue on here. And why don't we go ahead and continue. By the way, we just got off the phone with our guest today, and that was Mehak Vohra. And you can listen to the entirety of our interview there at computeramerica.com, or of course wherever podcasts are heard. So iHeartRadio, iTunes, Google Play Store, SoundCloud, Spreaker, Blog Talk Radio, TuneIn, what have you. Hey, we got you covered. And you can listen to the entirety of today's live broadcast, time shifted. So, yep, have fun with that. And, but yeah, so we just got off the phone. Let's go ahead and move on into computer and technology news. And this is brought to you by OWC. OWC, official sponsor of Computer America. And by the way, if you want anything kind of in that Apple sense of style, but hey, anything from hard drives to hardware to just about anything, then you want to check out OWC. But here we go. Let's do computer and technology news, brought to you by OWC. All right, now that's and kind of alluding to the fact that Apple is going to be on our minds, because if you live under a rock, then you probably don't know that today was the Worldwide Developers Conference. And while, unfortunately, I did not get a chance to sit down and watch the entire keynote, there are plenty of articles and things like that that are, of course, coming out by the truckload. And, of course, more that will probably come out, because I think the day continues, well, the coverage continues through today, where Apple will be announcing and releasing tons and tons of stores. And let's see, so I think the first one that we're going to do would be just an overview, and this one has pictures and things like that, and it's a rather long article, but it's a nice, as I said, overview of what Apple has been working on and what they've announced. So this is an article from TechCrunch, and they did a great job covering the event. And so our first article, is a pretty big one. And for those of you who don't know, the Worldwide Developers Conference is Apple's big event. It's kind of like Google I/O. It's kind of like Microsoft's Maker event. It's, it's just the place where Apple goes to announce their products. They don't do it at CES. They don't do it at Computex or anything like that. This is where Apple announces what they're working on. And, you'd think that Apple would announce some hardware, but to be very clear, Apple really just did not focus at all on hardware this year. So if you're looking for a refresh on the iMac Pros, if you're looking for new MacBook Airs or things like that, you're going to be sorely disappointed. But what they did announce was tons of software improvements. And hey, if you have any current Apple tech, then this will be of interest to you because you will benefit from what they're doing. So here we go. Overview. Apple introduces iOS 12, and this was the big announcement. This had the most content behind it, but here we go. Saying that Apple announced the next version of iOS at the WWDC Developer Conference, Worldwide Developer Conference. Yeah. So while iOS 12 won't be available before the fall, it's always interesting to get a sneak peek at the next version of the iOS. And they said that for iOS 12, we're doubling down on performance, saying that iOS 12 is going to be available on all devices that currently support iOS 11. So if you are currently running the latest version of the operating system, then you will be able to run the new iOS 12. So really, I think any phone about about the iPhone 6 and 6S, or the 6 and 6 Plus, those should be fine. Anything before that, you start to get dicey, and especially if you're on like the iPhone 4, might be time to really consider upgrading. But here's the cool part. Whereas past iOS updates have taken advantage of new features, have rolled in new capabilities, there's always been a performance trade-off where previous iterations of the technology, say, previous generations of iPhones would see a performance decrease, but would still be forced to upgrade to the latest iOS because that's how Apple works. They don't want that fragmentation that Android has. Here's the cool part, though. They talk about iOS 12 on the iPhone 6 Plus, and it's 40% faster. The keyboard comes up 50% faster, and opening the camera is 70% faster. So you get the idea. The new big feature in iOS 12 is performance and optimization. That's a great thing because that means a lot of people, even if you don't purchase a new iPhone, you are going to be better off for what they are releasing. So, of course, there's a couple of different things. We'll get into what they talked about with the AR here in just a minute. But again, this is a quick overview. But saying that Siri, here's another big announcement. Apple is introducing shortcuts. Saying it's not just for voice. Apple is also adding shortcuts on the lock screen or in the search screen, for instance. If you're running late to a meeting, you'll get a suggestion to send a text to the other person. And shortcuts on the lock screen are like app suggestions, but with more specific actions. Apple will open up shortcuts to third-party developers to store information or set up shortcuts, and developers will be able to put an Add to Siri button in their apps, where, for instance, you can store a flight details under the Flight to Portland shortcut. So if you ask Siri that phrase, you'll get your flight details. So essentially, gestures. They're becoming voice gestures kind of deal. And you'll be able to, to customize them. That's sorely needed because Siri, as far as digital assistants go, I think all digital assistants, when it comes to actual usefulness, not things that other people develop for you, but for you to customize these things for how you want them, they fall short. They fall short in a lot of areas, and I'm glad that they're finally adding some usability and some customization to Siri, because Siri, has never been the most impressive, but hey, now she's getting at least one cool feature. So let's see, there's a couple of other news here, including Apple is also redesigning Apple News and the Stocks app, where there's also a new sidebar in the News app to improve navigation. Whereas for iBooks, and by the way, all of these are default Apple applications, so hey, this is a lot of you will be benefiting from this. As for iBooks, rumors were right. Apple is adding audiobooks to iBooks and removing them from the Music app, and the company is also rebranding iBooks to Apple Books. So if you didn't know, this is actually a fun bit of Apple history for those of you who don't keep up to date. A lot of the iPhone, iMac, iBook, whatever, a lot of these were developed under the watchful eye of Steve Jobs, who at the time was the interim CEO, or at least that was his position. He was the CEO. And eventually he became the full-fledged CEO. They never really, took the reins away from him, after the first time he got booted. But any product under his eye was named the I product. So iPad, iBook, iPhone, iPod, whatever. Well, looks like they're moving away from the I moniker and they're moving to Apple. So we are now getting Apple Books. Finally, Apple is adding support to third-party navigation apps in Carplay. Pretty cool. So let's see. Let's go ahead and scroll down. There was this whole thing about me-mojis, where if you use Snapchat, you can do these things called Bitmojis, and you can customize them. A lot of people make them look like themselves, and hey, that's the way things go. Apple is doing something very similar, except it's me-moji, where you create an emoji, looks just like you, and it will have everything from a live kind of camera thing. So like you point at yourself and your Memoji will act and talk and look like you. You can customize what your emojis are looking like or doing, all based on, hey, how you design yours. Not really that important, I'll be honest, but a bit of customization that we're going to be seeing. So let's see. The last one is an overhaul on FaceTime. FaceTime, it's that magical instance where you can video call someone and they can see you, you can see them, and Apple's adding, AR functionality to FaceTime. Well, you can now create a FaceTime group with 32 people, and you can now switch from an iMessage conversation to a video chat without having to open another app, saying that this is long overdue and House Party is not going to be happy. So House Party was an app that did exactly that. It'll also work on macOS and the Apple Watch for the audio part. So the Apple Watch will allow you to participate in these FaceTime groups via audio, but not via video. And of course, the overall macOS will allow you to do it on a computer. So that was a quick overview. We have more stories to delve into, some of the other features of what they announced. But the point is, iOS 12 is coming, and that was really the major part of what Apple was talking about, where they weren't announcing the best new computer you have to have this coming winter, but rather all software all day long. So all right, let's talk about some of the other ones, including, so this is one I skipped over, but it's decently important, where Apple, they were trying to push their own standard for augmented reality files, and it just wasn't happening. In fact, it was causing a lot of people to choose between having to develop for Apple products, or Adobe products, or any other type of content out there, and that wasn't good for AR adoption. It wasn't good for developers having to choose between which audience they wanted to go after. So Apple, Pixar, and Adobe are back to a standardized AR file format. But of course, I take it back. I think Disney owns Pixar now. I think Apple sold it to Disney. So either way, Apple, Pixar, and Adobe back to standardized AR file format. And they said that, and this is something that they announced today, saying that the Universal Scene Description File, or USDZ for short, will offer the ability to display 3D rendered AR objects within a single, zero compression, unencrypted zip archive. So they said that as Apple's and I believe this is their developer, explained on stage, that the new file format is basically an AR quick look with an editor designed to support mobile AR experiences across the iOS 12 landscape. And with it, developers will be able to design objects in, say, Photoshop or Dimension and easily export them into an AR environment. So there you go. It's and of course there's native support for it in Adobe Creative Cloud Suite. This is just a good thing. This is where one of the biggest players in AR, and don't you doubt for a minute that Apple isn't eyeballing AR for even more things. They want people to create content so that their hardware is more attractive to people's software. And only makes sense that they would announce it at the developers conference. All right, so there's that one, and then we'll cover, I think, this one and maybe one or two more just really quickly, but I wanted to get the big news stories out of the way. We covered iOS 12, which will be coming with massive improvements for mobile devices. And, well, now we know, because there was rumors that maybe macOS and iOS would start to merge and that, we'd have a unified platform. Luckily, and I say luckily very seriously, luckily, that's not the case. And Mac OS Mojave. So, they follow a general scheme of naming things, and now we have Mac OS Mojave adds dark mode and improved organization options. There you go. And they said that the senior VP of software engineering is on stage walking the crowd through the updates. And they said that they've been on a mountain bender for 4 years now. So this year's update will change things up, and it's called macOS Mojave. So just to be clear, this is their latest macOS update. And the feature on display was inspired by the desert, a night mode, and this is something I love. I've been a longtime supporter of a website called, let's see if it's even still up before I even plug it. Yes, it is, and it really hasn't been updated at all, but that's okay. A website called Blackle, and it's like Google, but with the word BLACK in it, LE, so BLACKLE.com, and it gets at the heart of what I love about night mode. Is that instead of this bright white light that you think, oh my God, I died and I'm going to heaven, beam me up, Scotty, you have turned it into a much more relaxing experience for your eyeballs, especially late at night, hence night mode. And this is a first-time feature for the Mac, saying it's not just a personal preference, it was designed with professionals in mind, where in particular, it looks good for presentations and photography, but will be applied to basically all of the Mac's first-party apps. And of course, third-party apps will want to update themselves to better fit, or at least have the option to better fit the night mode dynamic. And if you're watching the video portion, you can see a picture of it here. Looks pretty darn sleek. So again, not surprised that they did this at all. So here we go. Moving on to more useful features, although I think night mode is a huge improvement. New organization scheme for the desktop called Stacks will help clean up a desktop that might be overloaded with documents, where it can organize files by file type, like documents, presentations, spreadsheets, PDFs, images, and so on. Clicking on a stack expands it so you can see all the files within it. So they managed to figure out grouping or sorting. Nice, because I have seen some Mac OS computer users and their desktops. I don't know how they get anything done. They're so cluttered. I'm glad that they finally came out with that. Let's see, there's also a new view mode in the Finder called Gallery Mode. It shows large preview of the file you're looking at. And there's a strip along the bottom that lets you scrub through your files. And let's see, so just some general usability. Let's see, what else is there? Screenshots are getting an upgrade. Don't care about that. They discuss continuity, the ties between iOS and Mac, where the first one he discussed was called Continuity Camera. And there's an option in the Mac right-click area that says Take Photo. And once you take it, it shoots it right back to the Mac. So basically, it's a wireless remote capture tool for your iPhone. There's also a document scanning option that works the same way. That's really cool, especially for professionals or those who like to take pictures. And Apple has had, of course, the iCloud or whatever. Yeah, they've had the iCloud backup kind of thing for a while now. But I like this feature where it seamlessly and very quickly syncs it between the two computers. So it seems like you are taking a picture with your phone and it's actually storing it on your computer instantaneously. That's going to be a huge feature, and I can see a lot of people getting a lot of use out of that. Let's see, some of Apple's native apps got a few updates. And let's see, Apple News will come to the Mac for the first time, and the new iPad layout we saw earlier. Stocks and voice memos, blah, blah, blah. Essentially, hey, everything we talked about with the native Apple apps, they're all getting updates, and some of them are coming to the Mac OS. Let's see. Some things about privacy. Mac will let you know what personal data will be stored in your Apple computer, and when third-party programs want to use your private data, it will give you clear indications of what they're actually collecting. Pretty important in today's day and age. Let's see, Mac OS Mojave is also making it harder for sites to build a fingerprint of your device's hardware, where it'll present how you're viewing a website so that the site is a very basic, simplified version of what you see. And that means that your Mac will look more like other Macs and less like your particular machine. Pretty cool. And again, privacy in mind, just making sure that it's harder for them to identify that this is, let's say, Ben's Mac instead of, one of the other thousands of Macs out there. So there's that. Let's see, the Mac App Store is also getting a redesign. Don't care. You'll notice that when it finally comes. And yeah, I think we're going to stop there, but not a lot of kind of news. I mean, the night mode's cool. I love that. A couple of improvements, some privacy features, but overall, just a pretty generic upgrade. Or, a pretty generic upgrade from one Mac OS to the next version. Nothing about incompatibility, so I assume that if you are currently running the latest version of Mac's operating system, you should be able to run the next version of Mac's operating system. So, all right, just real quick, and we have like 8 minutes left. I really want to get to at least one other story besides Apple, but I will say that there were some other announcements, including the Apple Watch. Yay! I know all of you were wondering, where's the Apple Watch news? We are clamoring for the Apple Watch news. Don't worry, we got you covered, but only in general, because I really don't feel like talking about it. But the Apple Watch will get automatic workout detection, walkie-talkie mode, and better notifications. So essentially, they're tweaking how information is displayed on the Apple Watch, as they usually do. It will be upgraded with iOS 12, and it will have a walkie-talkie option, where you can press a button on the side of the watch, speak, and the other person will hear what you have to say, and they can then respond to an audio clip of their own. This is not anything completely innovative because we already have this option in iMessage. iMessage will allow you to record about 1 minute voice clips, send them very easily. So this is simply rolling that functionality into a button on the side of the watch. I mean, hey, it's cool that they did it. Surprised that they didn't have it before. Let's see what else. They said, again, better workout detection or automatic workout detection. So if you're doing yoga activities or hiking, runners will benefit from improved tracking for your pace and cadence. And of course, as we mentioned a couple of shows ago, iOS 12 will have a slew of better, improved, and new workouts and healthy living apps come with it as well, because Apple knows fitness is an important part of smart devices, and they want that functionality baked into their hardware. So there's that one. We can go ahead and touch on this one real quick. Apple TV's zero sign-on and frustrating pay TV logins. This is for those of you out there who have maybe, let's say, I don't know, Hulu, and you have Amazon, and you have the Google Play Store, and you have Netflix, and you have, Showtime or whatever. Well, Apple announced a feature that has you doing even less. With zero sign-on, the apps of pay TV providers will automatically log you in, as it were, if you happen to be one of their broadband customers. So, zero sign-on will be switched on later this year with the Charter Spectrum app as the first supported network, but expect others to follow suit. Not sure how I feel about this from a net neutrality standpoint, but as a general user, hey, that's pretty cool. Zero sign-on, using your internet info to authenticate you, isn't anything new, where Adobe Primetime is a system designed for video providers that does just that. All Apple TV owners really need to know, though, is that later this year, login prompts should become a bit less frequent. So it sounds like they're doing it through your cable provider, and Charter knows who you are anyways, so they can authenticate you based on where you log in, what device you log in from, and whether or not you should be logging into that particular account. Not a huge fan of that, but it is what it is. All right, and then the last one, just to give you an idea, because it is the Worldwide Developers Conference, I thought it'd be fun to tell you some, to give you some numbers, and that includes 20 million registered developers. So those are people actually actively developing for the iTunes Store. 20 million registered developers with 100 billion in revenues. So across all of those, across all the apps in the iTunes Store, and 100 billion in revenue, 500 million visitors per week. If there was ever any doubt that iTunes was not the king of paid apps, I mean, Android has some impressive numbers that they can put up. They have a lot of monthly users. But when it comes to actually paying for things, Apple users take the cake and then give it another $100 billion. It's pretty crazy. And they said that we're also happy to announce that, and this is, again, Tim Cook, saying that the App Store will top $100 billion in revenue. So, Apple developers are using it in huge numbers. In fact, 350,000 apps have been written in Swift in the App Store, and that we believe that coding is an essential skill, and we believe it should be offered by every school in the world. Learning to code has so many benefits. It's developers' problem-solving, critical thinking skills. So, all right, we don't have time, but the other news story that I wanted to get to that I'm just going to tell you about is, of course, that Microsoft purchased GitHub for $7.5 billion. And that's a big deal. We'll have to talk about it tomorrow. But just take note of it. If you are a developer, I know that we have a lot of techie people here listening to the program. Microsoft now owns probably the place you store your code for peer review, help, and just, general storing. So everyone, until next time, thank you so much for tuning into Computer America. It was a lot of fun, and we definitely enjoyed talking to Mehak here today, and very interesting to hear about her PR company. And everyone, be sure to check out the show notes at computeramerica.com. So until tomorrow, 4 p.m. to 5 p.m. Eastern, Monday through Friday, hey, have a great day. Thank you so much. And be sure to tune in. Let's see if I can tell you. Yes, tomorrow, Gamer Tuesday, very important, as we'll be talking about E3. Actually, might not even be Corey Gallagher. We'll have to talk about that. Everyone, either way, tune in tomorrow. You'll have fun. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.